What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bat Chat number 3. So, we got a couple topics in mind for this week. Uh, First one, obviously, there's always a lot of chatter around AI, but there's been some more kind of in your face statistics and examples that I'd like to talk about. And that's in pertinence to novels and more so comics. That's where I think it's going to have the nastiest impact, and I mean that by the ugliest looking impact would be the comics. Second topic I wanted to talk about was, conservatives in art. And there's always a conversation here and there around whether or not conservatives can create art, their approach to creating art, and is their art affecting culture at all? So I want to take a look at a example tweet that talks about that and give my opinion around that. Um, Especially since I am by nature a conservative. I consider myself an independent, though, because I think American politics have really bastardized and ruined the term conservative because very few, if any, of the politicians live by what it should stand for. So, and the third topic I want to talk about was variant covers. That's another topic that's popped up recently on whether or not they're a problem for the mainstream, whether or not they're a problem for crowdfunding. So I wanted to go through that. And then lastly, want to do another comic review where we take a look at Lobo number 0, which was absolutely fantastic, but no surprise there. So let's check in with the chat here. We have Flady. What's going on? Thanks for being here. I says, "What's up, man? Good to see you streaming again and liking the intro." Well, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back. One thing I talked about the first week, if you didn't catch the Bat Chat number 1, was just me, Patrick, and Dan from Godful Universe just talked about how different the landscape is just in the last year and 4 months since I stopped streaming, and not just in crowdfunding, but in terms of Twitter engagement, in terms of YouTube and CG, indie comics, everything is just feels so different. Nothing in a positive manner, mind you. Uh, it's when we started. Well, myself, Aaron, Salty, all those guys. It was about 4 years ago. I think 2021, actually about 5 years ago when I kind of entered the scene per se. And then it was, indie comics was a gold mine in a sense because there were probably 30 promotion streams or channels that you could hop onto at any given point if you launched a campaign. If you went onto Twitter, you would see 20 new launch campaigns, everyone retweeting everyone's campaigns, everyone retweeting everyone's YouTube channels. Like there's just a lot of collaboration, a lot of promotion, and there's like almost none now, it feels like. And that goes for Twitter, YouTube, and any group, any space. It's just it feels a little bit like a deserted island when it comes to indie comics right now. I don't know if that's going to change. I mean, crowdfunding is still making money, but that's primarily because mainstream names and publishers they caught on. Um, they may have realized there might be some tax benefits to doing crowdfunding. They could, increase their margins and get more attention by putting it on there. And a lot of the high funding campaigns that you see on Kickstarter right now are, pros, former pros, and it's not really a lot of, you know, just organic indies, I guess you could say, that are getting traction on there. So it's quite interesting. And then on YouTube, I mean, I remember going onto YouTube every night. There was at least anywhere from 5 to 10 live streams going on, talking indie comics, promoting comics, doing draw streams. And now you're lucky if there's two per night. And typically one or two out of those two are just drama farming or based more so around drama than anything else. But you still have folks like Joe Sontag that has consistent quality streams where he talks about comics, about pop culture, does promotion. I know Bancroft's still sticking to it, and many others, and obviously the Commandos. Everyone, make sure that you're subscribed to Patrick Quinlan's channel, Logos Comics, as well as Salty Draws channel, Godful Universe. All the folks that have been on my channel in the past, because they're the the one thing that I've realized, and this is a good thing in a way, is that the last 5 years has really weeded out indie comics. You've seen some of the opportunists just disappear, and obviously part of that is because the books just aren't funding as well. So it's like in a way it's a good thing because it weeded out the ones that weren't really here because they actually loved comics and they had a passion for their story. Um, and also some of the, I don't know if you'd say agitators, instigators when it comes to drama have also kind of fell out of the scene. That's a net positive. But we've also lost, at least it seems like we've lost some really talented people too, because of the lack of steam around promotion, around collaboration, which is a shame. But I would say it's left us with, I can name off the top of my head probably 5 to 10 just solid creators that they're not here to make money. For them, that would just be a bonus. Folks like Salty, again, like Aaron Immortal Rising, Patrick, etc. Like these guys are here because they care about making their books. Their stories mean so much to them that they don't care if they make money. They're going to make it no matter what. And those are the folks that, in my opinion, um, they deserve more traction. They deserve some extra attention. And, I want to do what I can to help them fund their books. But, again, there's at least now to me, it's more obvious of the guys that are just the hardcore lovers of the craft that are doing what they can to improve, and they're gonna continue on no matter what. And I'm sure some folks thought that I was one of the ones that was gonna fade away because I stepped away for almost a year and a half. But it was more of a situation where just shit happened. Life was too crazy. I had literally no opportunity to stream or anything like that. I never stopped working on my comic. In fact, I cranked out over 75 pages at this point of comic script, and so that never stopped. And I was getting art pages funneling in. So, but even though the crowdfunding space doesn't look very promising right now, I'm going to make the book no matter what. I'm going to get it to the fans and to the people that really care about comics and are interested about the concept of my book. And they also can see who's out there doing this for the right reason. So that's my long-winded response to you welcoming me back to streaming. And what's going on, Andrew Campbell? Thanks for being here. Hey, what's going on, Chris Bouchard? Thanks for being here. Yeah, so still chugging along. My artist is working on a logo for the thumbnail for the sign up pages. As mentioned, it'll be on Kickstarter and Indiegogo for the sign up pages. Can't get onto Back Me Bro yet. I hope to not use Indiegogo. I talked about that in the last two bat chats, but I hope to be able to get on Back Me Bro eventually. And so once I have that logo done, we'll get the sign up page launched very quickly. So I think definitely the month of August, get the sign up pages going, try to get a gauge, right? Get a sense of how much interest there is out there, and potentially how much I could raise so that, um, yeah, I can just get this book launched and get the artist cranking out at a quicker pace. But definitely excited to get it out there. Hopefully you caught all the art previews that I showed. I'll have more coming soon. Plenty of pages to put on the sign up page. I have 12 completely finished. I'll have 12 completely finished pages by then, most likely. I have 12 art pages at the moment, just correcting some lettering, doing some minor edits and stuff. But It's coming along. So now all that's left is just getting the funds to finish up. And yeah, it's I mean, the drama channels were always there, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against drama channels in nature, and I'll have to do a stream dedicated to this topic. I think that would be a good one to have a panel of guests if they're comfortable talking about it. But to me, I like it in small doses, and I like it when it pertains to things outside of indie comic creators, like when it's not specific to a particular indie comic creator. If it's going to be drama around mainstream comics or movies or things like that, by all means. Um, again, in small doses, but I think it'd be good to see more balance on some of these streams in terms of promotion, doing comic reviews, just talking about comics, maybe going back and getting a little nostalgic. Talk about your favorite comics, take a look at them together, things of that nature. Take a look at scripts and stuff like that, which I did that last week, which was fun. I enjoyed showing folks how I do my scripting and giving them some insight as a newer creator when it comes to comics, I guess. So, but yeah, I hope some of the channels that used to be here come back. But at the same time, I hope Comics Get Commandos and other channels get some more traction because they've been grinding for years and they haven't fallen to the temptation of drama clicks. So, speaking of which, here is Patty Quinlan, Mr. Logos Comics. Speaking of CG Commandos, thanks for being here, man. I think you're at work. If not, you're welcome to join, of course, anytime. But I appreciate you popping in. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to his channel, catch his show every Saturday night. I think at the same time at 8:30. And I'm going to try to make an effort to pop into there more frequently as well. Also, we'll take a look at his active campaign tonight. He just launched Phenomenon 3 as well. In the same campaign, he has the River of Blood Second Chance with the EVS cover. So that's a fantastic looking campaign. I'll be backing that along with Salty Jaws, newest release for Silence Do Good. So those are two campaigns we'll take a look at. Highly recommend folks back those because we want guys like them creating more books. As mentioned, they're here for the right reasons. So, and their books are fantastic. So, and you can tell that they're improving over time, and that's what this should be about. It's the opposite of what's happening in mainstream comics for the most part over the last couple decades. So, all right. So, Plady says you cannot change others. That's true. If you don't like what you see in any particular scenario, all you can do is change your own behavior and interact with others and hope they follow suit. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely can't change folks. There's folks that in the past did more promotion and more kind of traditional content, and now it's kind of geared more towards drama. So all I can say is I hope it flips back to the way it used to be. Um, I think that would be what's best for the scene and for CG specifically. But I'm going to try to do my part and retweet as many campaigns as I can, bring people on the channel, and show you folks their campaigns. Because a lot of those guys also have helped me out and they've been great to me. So it's only the right thing to give them support as well. All right, so let's jump into the first topic, and that would be around AI. So I first want to show a screenshot I took from Twitter. I found not surprising, but also interesting. Let me share my screen here. Mm, Here we go. And hey, Jimmy, thanks for being here. Hail. So let me zoom in a little bit here. This is a tweet from Polymarket where they say that studies reveals that over 50% of Amazon books sampled from 2025 contained AI generated. Well, there's no reason to put air quotes. I'm just going to say slop. As much as that word is becoming the new cringe, and other words that have just They've kind of lost their meaning, but we'll apply it here. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And what's crazy is now maybe it's actually what was published in 2025, but if it's like like it's talking about every book that's on Amazon and already 50% of it has AI. I mean, Amazon was already flooded in the past. It's oversaturated. People are pricing themselves out of, even making a profit or anything, but 50%. Now, I'd be curious to see how many of those are strictly covers versus, the interior of a novel. But regardless, I think everyone knows my opinion on this. When it comes to comics or when it comes to novels and comics, right? You can find a cover artist that's reasonably priced if you look. And if you go beyond, some of the basic websites, you do some searching on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, you can find good cover artists for under 500, even for 200 or less. That would look like a traditional creative cover without just I mean, to me, every time I see an AI image, it's not just that it looks fake. There's just like this ugliness to it, to the colors. Like it reminds me of plastic surgery, on like women's faces. Like every once in a while, you can be like, okay, it worked out for them a bit, but most of the time, you're like, okay, that just looks strange. I just don't like it. That's exactly what AI is to me. It's plastic surgery to art, and plastic surgery to me, most of the time, makes people look worse and weird. And I think that's what's happening, especially with cover art. Quite easy to identify, and it's I don't know if Amazon is it's been a while since I put my books up on there, but it's like I don't know if they're asking people to disclose whether or not there's AI, but you know what? I would be completely okay with if Amazon had an actual, like a really good AI identifier that they start blocking books or finding a way to mark them because that's my biggest gripe with AI. It's not that it exists. That's not surprising. Uh, I think there's applications in the world where it can be beneficial. I still try to avoid it in my daily life and work and all that. But when it comes to art, it seems that a lot of the largest proponents of AI, folks that are raising funds to create their own AI thing to help, writers, which we can look at a tweet I made today about that, or, just folks being so adamant about using it, they'll publish the book, but they don't say in the description, there's no disclosure that they used AI. And why is that? Is that because maybe there's a little bit of guilt, or is it because they know, and rightfully so, they will lose some readers by doing it? And to me, if you're not creative enough and you're not willing to put in the time and effort to do a novel and do it right, then I mean, you're lazy or you're just not cut out for it. Right? Like for me, I'm not cut out to be a artist. I just don't have that talent. And writing, that's the thing. Some folks are born with the ability to draw, or it's like some folks where they just get math in a more easy manner. And when you do it when you're younger, it's easier to pick it up and perfect it over time. Writing, unlike languages, like it's not impossible. It's not that difficult to learn or try to perfect, whether it's in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? All you have to do is read other books, do some research, study some guides. Like it's not rocket science, literally. And so to me, it's just really telling if someone uses AI, especially in the text, about their abilities and their level of creativity. And I'd much rather give my money and my support to someone that took the hard route, did it the right way, and I'm quite confident they're gonna have a better story. They're gonna have better characters because they were able to use their imagination, unlock parts of it to create something truly unique because AI is not creating anything unique. It's taking from everything else. Now, people will say, oh, everyone is taking inspiration or ideas from other characters, other movies. Yes. And you have blatant examples of people just recreating, Superman, recreating the Flash and putting a new logo. I'm not a fan of that either, but at least they did it themselves. But I do still think there's a much better chance that someone's going to have something truly organic and creative when they didn't use AI. And the real talented people are going to still rise to the top no matter what. So it's a shame that this is the case. I hope something happens to prevent such books being used. And no, it doesn't make me a commie or whatever lazy argument that some of the folks might say. To me, again, these AI generators are taking art, they're taking content from other folks, mixing it up with, it's like this big mush or batch of soup of, just ingredients from all these different creators that there's a good chance I didn't give them permission to do. And to me, that's just morally wrong. So I will never use AI in anything when it comes to the creative side of things. I won't even use it for thumbnails and all that. I don't have a problem with people using it for memes and really thumbnails and stuff, marketing. Personally, I'm not a fan of doing so. So let's see what folks are saying in the chat. Let's get back up here. That's right. He uses Andrew intelligence. I like that. Jimmy says, my opinion, AI is dangerous in our lives. I believe the use long term will stop our creativity and critical thinking. Pretty soon, people will use AI for common advice, for sure. And I don't even want to think about it. Uh, but what really scares me are if people are using it to get through like med school, and those are the people that are going to become doctors or nurses, and then something they should have learned didn't fully get ingrained into their brain because they took a shortcut. Someone gets hurt as a result. Or one of the, AI generators, spits out some truly bad advice. I think there are definitely potential repercussions, especially when it comes to areas where it takes a lot of intelligence and perfection, such as being a doctor, being an engineer. Um, so yeah. Lady says, personally, I think AI is like any other tool, can be used to create and destroy, and the balance point will be razor thin. Yep, for sure. Yeah, I would like it to stay out of books and comics, personally, especially comics, because you know here's the thing: Alan Moore, Frank Miller, right? The legends, Marv Wolfman, the creators of Lobo Zero, the crew on that, they didn't need AI, and they made some of the most beautiful books and stories. Christopher Nolan doesn't use AI, and that's why he has some of the most beautiful films. He doesn't need it, and I don't want our society to lose people like that. I don't want my kids' generation to be left with just AI and folks that use it. That'd be such a shame. But look at the state of mainstream comics. How many new legends are in the works? How many people that started 2020 and beyond will be a recognized name in 20 years or even be remembered, compared to the folks that were remembered from the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, right? And earlier. And just look at how few of good TV shows there are now compared to the past, how many exciting film releases there are compared to the past. I think AI is going to make that worse because we're going to lose the true creatives, and the younger generations aren't going to be motivated to do things the hard way and to unlock pieces of their mind that could have created something wonderful. Jimmy says, I get pressure to use AI for phone trees and chatbots for facts and questions in my fund office. I like to have a human staff answering phones. Yep. I've been encouraged to use it during my day job and have avoided it so far. I feel like I'm more than good enough at what I do, and I think I'll actually lose some of that skill if I rely on a machine. I'm good with just good old Google. Andrew says AI is like steroids. Sure, you'll get results fast, but at the end of the day, you'll have no balls. That's a good one. That's true. That's funny. I wouldn't know. I don't have experience in using either, but still, that's funny. What's going on, Katie? Thanks for being here. Great to see so many familiar faces. It means people are getting some notifications and all that. One of the things I was alluding to earlier, like Twitter, the amount of traction or engagement that myself and others are getting compared to pre-Musk is insane because like the algorithm is just pure rage bait, right? I'll bet you, I think I'm almost at 3,000 followers. Maybe I mean, less than like 400 people will actually see my tweet, right? Because it tells you how many views you get. And it's because everybody's timeline or whatever is just their feed is being flooded with Odyssey this or AI this or political shit this, right? Instead of the priority should be receiving things from the people you follow. But even if you go to the, followers tab, I still don't have much faith. And obviously a lot of people use the for you because they want to see new stuff as well and things you won't necessarily always see, but the algorithm has completely ruined that. So I don't think a lot of folks are getting my tweets around the streams, but it's good to see that you guys did catch wind that I'm back on here. So Patrick says, "Yeah, dude, AI seems more like a betrayal of self than anything else, too." I agree. I agree. People are shorting themselves, or they just can't accept that they don't have the ability or the willpower to create what they think they want to create. Or there's people that are just trying to churn out books to make a profit, and well, those people to me are the dredge on society, and they're just tainting the arts. Flatty says, I work in a medical adjacent field, and we are seeing medical professionals use it, and it's causing issues. Doesn't surprise me. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of remakes on TV as well as film. I mean, the only thing that I can think of that's a remake that has been fantastic is Reacher. That's been top notch, in my opinion. I started the Malcolm in the Middle miniseries. First couple episodes have been disappointing. There's a couple flashes in the pan of humor, things that were, you know, nice from a nostalgic standpoint, but there's just so much potential there, and it's very underwhelming so far. And that show originally was I mean cream of the crop. It was fantastic. Patrick says, I wish phones had an app that could accurately detect the use of AI and artistic expression. Yep, me too. I hope Amazon will create something. I mean, I don't think Amazon's making a lot of money from these books that have AI, but if they have any shred of morality, I think they will prevent those books from being on there. And I want Kickstarter and Indiegogo to do the same and all those sites. It's yeah. I don't know. I joked about this the other stream. I miss pre-Musk Twitter, where people weren't getting paid to use hyperbole, to lie, to exaggerate and rage bait. Like it's just completely tainted tainted the site. I mean, the political stuff was always there, but it wasn't so in your face. It's just you're being baited constantly by that app, and I'm not seeing much art. I'm not seeing many campaigns, and it's just unfortunate. All right, so yeah, I guess I'll show you guys this one tweet. Yeah, see if I can pull this up. And it's a perfect example of the sad state of indie comics, in my opinion. Well, I guess the indie space, to be more specific. Pull this up. All right. Share screen. All right. So this is a active campaign on a crowdfunding site for a proof of concept for a new textual AI that assists the process of creative writing. I will say the creator of this is an author, a well-known one, not one I'm particularly a fan of, very political. But there's a lot of complaints out there of people creating books before they actually exist. Yet $40,000 has been raised for a proof of concept for something that is, in my opinion, going to allow writers to cut corners and just churn out more product. Now, it's very odd, though, right? 126 backers. I mean, if you were to average out the per backer funding, it's a little bit odd that there's that many people that are so passionate about uh, a shortcut AI assistant or whatever. Wouldn't surprise me, but I mean, to me, this is what I said is, it's a sad state of the indie space. All that money, all those backers, instead of supporting actual creative works resulting from human creativity, folks donated 40K to an AI proof of concept that would help writers ultimately be less creative and churn out more products. But sometimes society deserves what it's getting. And what's funny is this will go into the next topic, quite nicely. Is there's just so many right wingers or conservative influencers pushing AI, and a lot of people interested in this as well. And they're the ones that are complaining so much. Oh, there's no good movies. There's no good art. Oh, the mainstream is creating shit everywhere. And they're just nonstop complaining and rage baiting. So what do? Make something worse. And what they'll do in their books, and well, they won't make films. And if they do, they'll be shit probably, but they'll just make it so over political, so in your face that they'll alienate half of the country or potential audience, and then they'll alienate half, if not 75% of the people that's left because they're using AI. And it's going to be obvious, especially anything where there's images involved. I mean, just look at that image. Like, there's nothing inspiring or attractive about that. It's just, again, it's just plastic surgery. It's ugly. So it's but again, how many of these conservative influencers are truly conservative, actually believe any of the things that they say? A lot of them have been caught with their pants down, literally, and figuratively. So, folks just need to be cautious, but I'm skeptical about any influencer at this point. So, yeah, but a lot of folks definitely agree with me when it came to this post. But what's also sad, right? Like I was talking about, look at the engagement on it. Now, I don't technically consider this rage baiting, though I do want people to be mad about AI because I do think it's a moral topic and I think it's crucial in regards to arts, um, in comparison to people complaining about the Odyssey, for example. Um, I don't think that's important at all. And I like the movie. But, anyways, this is more of an awareness of like, hey, this is an issue in the indie space. And there's a lot of people that could be raising more funds, producing more real books if they were getting backers on their projects instead of something like this. So it's really unfortunate. It really is. So I will go right into my next topic, which is conservatives. And are they creating culture with art, or can they create art, or is their art a good thing for culture? So, mixture of things. So, I mean, just scrolling through I mean, look, like, take a look at Salty. Like, it's just so hard to get views on positive content or self promotion. I mean, look at that, like 276 just views when I have almost 3,000 followers. And I think Salty also has a lot of followers. But you post something about something controversial, boom, 5,000 views. I mean, I think in the last 2 weeks I had like 300, or no, I had over half a million of views and like I think 40,000 likes and about replies about the Odyssey, just defending the Odyssey, very little sarcasm, but that just shows how broken this is. Now I could have just rode that train and did what everybody else does, right? Just get more hyperbolic and just follow the trend and just complain and make more trendy, I guess, tweets to gain more followers. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna just tweet what I want to tweet and what I think is relevant and important to me. But that just kind of highlights again the difference there. So let's see. Let me get down to that post. Doo-doo. Oh, let's take a look at this real quick. Godfo, Dan, was on our channel the last 2 weeks, actually, and we got to take a look at one of his pieces of cover art, which was fantastic for his new campaign, Man of Blood, which I really like the lettering and the logos on this. This is a great piece of art too. This is really cool with that like painted effect there, or kind of like watercolor. His sign up page is active, so we'll take a look at that as well. Let's do that now, real quick, because I gotta walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So we're gonna promote too. We're gonna take a look at campaigns throughout the event tonight. And yeah, Jimmy says, I know a guy that traces. I'm sure he could trace that cover. Yeah. All right. So this is Man of Blood, the rise and reign of King David. So this is going to be a biblical epic. So this to me, if you're very interested in religion or the Bible, this is a good avenue here where I know he's going to portray his morals and beliefs without making it overly in your face political or anything like that, which is the right way to do it. But this is a story about David after slaying Goliath. So looks very interesting. So definitely, folks, sign up for this. He's got a great track record. They fulfill fast, and just a top-notch guy. So let me put the link here in the thing in the chat. I keep forgetting to do that in my own chat. All right. Let's get to that tweet I keep talking about. There we go. So this was one of many tweets around the topic of conservatives and art. You'll have a lot of influencers and commentators complain that right wingers, conservatives, they don't get a fair shake in the arts, or they're simply not creating art, or they're not good at art, excuse me. Uh, a plethora of items there. I think everyone knows there's no lack of conservative creators or independent creators, non-liberal creators, whatever. To me, it's all irrelevant. It comes down to how good the story is and the quality of the book. I could give two shits what your political leanings are. But this is a tweet by Kingman Lee where he says conservatives keep failing at creating culture. I'm going to stop there real quick. I'm not a fan of that statement. To me, creating good art naturally is good for culture. It naturally supports traditional culture. It naturally enhances culture. Too many people are trying to make things cultural instead of just focusing on traditional storytelling and making fantastic works like all the people did previously. They never had to make it about or promote it as culture. It was just their story, their passion. Continuing, he said, Daily Wire had real momentum and good projects. Press X for doubt. Nobody needed another Snow White where the actress is, one of the big guys in the company's cousin. Just not necessary. Again, just redoing something that already exists. Terror on the Prairie or whatever. It's like to me, it was kind of a try hard effort to get a disgruntled celebrity and do a western. Just again, not a huge audience for that, in my opinion. And they put everything behind a paywall. That doesn't really help because, again, you're only going to get people watching it that are specifically attracted to your company or your site, and you're not bringing in the rest of the audience. To me, I don't think that's not the best method to get your art out in front of people. To me, that makes it more about subscriptions and making money than getting the art out there. He's again, he says they had some good projects, and they buried the Pendragon cycle behind a paywall and watched Ben Key flop. Reaction is not enough. Culture is won by telling stories that move people, not by commenting on the ones Hollywood has already made. Now, I do agree with that statement. Commenting, complaining, the rage baiting does nothing at all. Actually, to me, that is more degrading to society than the actual works that Hollywood is putting out. Odyssey was the perfect example of that. Everyone was creating rage bait around that, exaggerating, when in reality, that film was very conservative for the most part. And it focused, at least in my opinion, on a lot of Christian values and good moral behaviors. And there was a lot of lessons learned in there around morality, war, greed, things of that nature. It was not a typical, I guess you could say, Hollywood film. He then says Mel Gibson proved it with The Passion of Christ. Hollywood tried to kill it and still broke through because the art was so strong. And to me, that's why The Odyssey has, not that it needed to break through all the rage bait and the resistance, but it's because Christopher Nolan's a good writer. He's a true artist, and he stuck to his guns and made a great film. I said we need more artists like that and more people with real capital, like Elon Musk, willing to fund them, create the culture instead of just complaining about the one we lost. I agree and disagree throughout this tweet, but to me, it's not create culture, it's create wonderful art that can naturally impact culture. Don't make the focus be around the culture and wanting to affect it. Have the focus be around the quality of the actual book. Because let's be honest, you know, heroic stories and stories about doing good deeds are inherently in line with what should be conservative values and traditional values. So you don't need to push politics. You don't need to push right wing talking points. You don't need to insert an existing political figure or someone that acts just like an existing political figure. You don't need any of that. It's about the message in the story, and the message should be through the morals pushed in the story. Again, through heroic deeds, doing what's right, traditional heroism. And it's not that difficult to do. It's been done for forever. It's being done less now, in my opinion. You have a lot more, let's say, anti-heroes, more content like The Boys and things like that when it comes to comics. But there's still really good stories in indie comics and mainstream comics that are staying true to heroic deeds. And it's not in a silo to conservatives or right wingers, right? Liberals throughout the past century have told fantastic stories about heroes and about morals, even though that they were liberal. So there's just too much hyperbole around the intentions of everyone creating art that isn't right wing, kind of assuming that they're all doing something that's negative to culture. But in reality, a good chunk or a majority of the best stories. But the thing is, it's irrelevant. In the past, no one needed to know their political leaning. No one cared. They were just happy to have a great comic, happy to have a great film. It wasn't until social media that that stuff became obvious and they started throwing it in people's faces instead of just, hey, let's just consume the content, make a judgment. Everyone's making judgments beforehand. And unfortunately, a lot of the right wingers and conservatives, from an influencer commentator perspective, they're doing the same thing. They are doing exactly what social media has done, and they are just pushing things. They're trying to drive it down people's throats instead of just marketing themselves as a creator, making a great book, and highlighting why the book or the art is good. They market or pitch with, "Hi, I'm a conservative, and all of content is filled with woke DEI slop, blah 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 blah." Instead of, "Hey, I have a story about a hero. This is what makes him unique. Take a look at this art." You know, we're getting back to traditional storytelling, traditional heroes. You're going to get in front of a lot more people. You have a lot better chance of having your content put into the mainstream, which would again have the best impact on culture, right? Getting it in front of more people is more important than getting as much money as possible from one political party or one niche in this sphere. And there's a lot of ways that you can inject your politics and your beliefs and your religion in a book, through symbolism, through the deeds, and again, the actions of the characters, and with Easter eggs, etc. It's just so many people are so focused on just, hey, I got to really make it obvious where I stand on the political spectrum and who I support in politics. Um, and I almost fell into that trap, 10 years ago, but I realized it wasn't gonna help my story at all. It was actually gonna make it worse. And I'm so glad I didn't fall into that trap. So curious to see what other people think. But yeah, to me, that topic is just, I don't know. It's so funny because all of those influencers and podcasters that have a massive reach, they just promote their buddies. They just promote the people doing the same thing as them. I have yet to see anyone that I can think of just showing some indie comics, showing some indie novels, trying to give people that are doing it the right way, or at least giving it a good effort, um, giving them some engagement. So I would be shocked when we come across the influencer commentator like that. But to me, a lot of them are hypocrites. And I'm not, saying that, specifically about Canman here. He does seem a little bit more level-headed, but it's just a majority of these influencers are just rage baiting, trying to maximize getting Twitter bucks or whatnot, getting money on YouTube versus actually putting their money and their influence where their mouth is. So let's take a look at another campaign. Let's go to Fund My Comic here. Screen. All right. So here's another fantastic looking campaign. So I've backed all of Salty's previous campaigns. I've really enjoyed his books so far. Fantastic storytelling. He does all the art and the coloring himself. He may even, I don't know if he does the lettering, but just a great, true, artist and creative. And his story is really good and it's very relevant to the first topic we talked about, right? It's all about AI. And so, um, there's a very good story behind this. It's sending a good message, and he's doing a good job of expressing his beliefs without again pushing politics down people's. Excuse me, man. Drinking carbonated drinks, streaming, not a good idea. Uh, but he's just doing a fantastic job, in my opinion. So, highly recommend people support him. He's been around for I think at least 5 years now. Just keeps making books. He's promoting folks and just doing it the right way, in my opinion. So, let's take a look at the trailer. I'm gonna see if I can get the sound to work. So I'm gonna unshare and reshare because I've had a lot of boomer moments with audio here. All right. So so yeah, he's at just shy of 3K. Would love to push him over 3K. If someone could back him tonight, that'd be great. And let's take a look at this trailer. Let me make sure my own audio is not gonna duplicate here. So one second. There we
They told you AI was just a tool. The algorithms would decide what we see, what we hear, what we think. They promised safety, comfort, the perfect society. Benjamin Franklin saw the truth. It was a digital prison, and freedom surrendered is rarely returned. Now history itself is under attack. Because those who control the past control the future. The revolution against the algorithm has begun. Silence. Do Good. Volume 2.
Awesome. Love that music. That's a great trailer. So yeah, he's got some a bunch of different perk options here with I Want It All with just a ton of books and some an EVS art poster print, a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, and this is a 90 plus page book actually. So he's got special edition cover by EVS for 35 bucks. He's got his own cover. As mentioned, he does the art, you know, the lines, the inks, and the colors. And then all three covers. It looks like there's going to be a surprise cover here coming out soon. So, yeah, definitely check this out. There's also some catch up tiers here as well. Highly recommend, again, all of his books so far. Hey, what's up? Yeah, definitely. It's been growing since I stopped streaming last April. So it's been a while. And then let's take a look at Patrick Quinlan's campaign here as well, since we're on Fund My Comic. And this is, yeah, I guess this was one of my minor gripes with Fund My Comic is that the featured picks and how they're organized on here is all over the place. Honestly, to me, it should be, hey, right here are the highest funded books, right, to highlight how well the site is doing funding books, and to give those a chance of raising maximum funds. Uh, to me, it should be more performance based. From what I've been told, it's more tip based. But like for example, it's hard to imagine a book that's funded 250 bucks having a lot of tips. So um, nevertheless, yeah, there's quite a few campaigns on here I have not seen on Twitter. Some that look pretty intriguing. But like Patrick's campaign, I think it may be near 3,000, or I think it was near 2,000 last week. So to me, that should be, hey, it should be right here up near the top, and it would definitely help it catch a little traction, or it should. So there it is. So yeah, he did cross 2,000. Awesome. So yeah, phenomenon number three. Again, I've picked up all of Patrick's books. He just keeps improving. His writing is really enjoyable. This is a young, talented guy. Again, he's been doing things the right way for last 4 years. I really hope that he'll catch some more attention and get some more traction. Uh, his River of Blood campaign specifically was criminally underfunded. The Peter Gilmore art is fantastic in it. This campaign also has a second chance uh, option there for the River of Blood with an EVS cover as well. So I would love to see us, get this as close as we can to 2,500. And to me, this is a campaign that should be hitting 10K plus, honestly. So let's take a look at the trailer, and then we'll kind of take a look at the rest of the campaign. But I also like that his books, a lot of them take place in unique locations. Like the first couple phenomenons took place in Russia and in Europe, and that's refreshing versus just everything being in America or in common American cities. So I really like that. And River of Blood has like a kind of a native, feel to it, more of a wilderness vibe. So it's very cool. Let's take a look at the trailer. Fantastic music too. Yeah, tell me where you got that. It's great music. That's a great. It's Alan Goldman cover there, who's been leveling up over the last couple years. So that alone is a reason to back phenomenon number three. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. All right, let's take a look here. And he's got some really cool character designs too. I really dig these, and they stand out, especially this guy here. I think people jokingly call him Pumpkinhead Man. You can see here the River of Blood EVS cover, which is fantastic. Love that reflection in the eye there. Some great lettering and logo work there. So only 25 bucks. He's also got the Virgin cover of that as well. I love that black and white. I'm gonna have to pick that up. I'm a sucker for the black and white with the heavy inks. It's fantastic. But yeah, definitely, folks, check this out. Again, there's some supernatural kind of vibes to this story. Enhanced humans, bigger picture things that ties into wars and global events. So there's a lot more, there's a lot of high stakes in it, which I really enjoy. And again, really cool character designs and really cool backstories to the characters, which the previous books will give you a lot of the info around that. Oh, he's also got a Aaron Lepresti cover. I didn't realize that. Very cool. Yeah, he's got some fantastic covers. Oh, and there's going to be a Salty Drowse cover. Very cool. And then I'm assuming the Gamma version is maybe all of the phenomenon up to date. Let's see. Do I wish Fun My Comic would have like a expanded kind of breakdown of information there, but Patrick can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that this is like a catch up that has everything. Okay, so it is everything up to now, including three. So it's all of his phenomenon books. So that's awesome. So yeah, definitely that's a fantastic cover there. So I'm gonna recommend people definitely pick that up and then pick up River Blood as well. Very cool. And then let's see. They got some bundle packages here. So you save a little bit of money on the bundles. Very good. But yeah, some just great covers here. And I mean just the interior art that Peter did is fantastic. Clearly the storyline and the characters are right up his alley. Yeah, I'm super pumped for this book. This is what I've said about Patrick all along. That he was eventually going to level up. He was going to work with somebody like Peter. And, the more I just know he's one of those guys that the more money he raises, the higher quality his next book is going to be. Right. It's just going to be an investment where he's just going to continue to level up on his stories, on the quality of the art. And this is proof of it, which is again why I think he's been criminally underfunded in the previous campaign. And I'd really like to see this gets some great traction. Hopefully, I'll have a chance to maybe put on Back Me Bro eventually too. Yeah, this is some fantastic art, fantastic coloring too. But yeah, plenty of perk options here, so pretty much can bundle it any way you want, and then all in tier. That's a good deal too. So 6 comics for 120 or 150. So yeah, awesome. So everybody go check this out. I'll put the link here in the chat. Let's support Patrick Quinlan. All right. So next topic I want to cover briefly is around variant covers. That's a topic that comes up every once in a while on whether or not it's been damaging to mainstream comics, collectors, market, and indie comics. I'll start with indie comics. I mean, for me, I don't have a gripe with them. My only gripe can be if there's variant covers where the art is like just phenomenal, but the interior art is is I mean like really bad. I mean there can be a level of difference to me that's acceptable. You can't expect obviously someone with a Dale Keown cover to have Dale Keown interiors or that level, um, or even close to it. But uh, we've seen some examples in the past where there's some great variant covers. It gets people hyped up, and then the interiors are just like not there. So I think variant covers can be misleading if handled in a poor manner. But in general, yeah, it does bulk up the campaigns. No one's forcing anyone to get multiple covers or variants or anything like that. Everyone has their choice to just get one book, for example, or two. So I'm not going to put any complaints on creators doing it. You can't blame them, especially if they just want to see a bunch of artists work on their book and be involved. I can't blame them at all, because that is fun. That is fun. I mean, personally, when I did the mini comic, I had 3 different covers. Now, there's really only one variant cover, I guess you could say, because the Virgin black and white, right? Completely different look to the book because of the coloring scheme. So it made sense to have a unique cover for that, being in the Joe Ball cover. And then I had a color variant that Skunk Artworks did for the colored version. Reason I did that was I just wanted to see some different colored styles. So I wanted to have a black and white, a hand painted version, which Skunk did, which was fantastic, which and was also a wraparound, and then just Corey's digital version. So 3 different styles of coloring, 3 different styles of art. But each book was unique because of that. But to me, 3 is not too over the top. When it comes to the campaign I'll be launching here in the future, I'm not going to have, I'm going to have a different cover for each book type. And I'm going to say book variant because I'm not going to have the same book with the same colors with 3 different, covers, for example. I'm going to have a truly black and white version that the artist will do, black and white cover. And then I'm going to have a grayscale version that's going to have a specific cover for that. So the book will obviously be different, and that cover art will be more fitting for the grayscale. And then I'm going to have a black, white, and bloody version to really make the red pop out and give it that Sin City feel. And that cover will also be unique, and will have the obviously the blood be apparent in the coloring. So that's the plan. 3 different covers, but 3 unique books because the coloring and the interiors will be different. And then if the funding permits, then I'll have a colored version that would have its own also unique cover. The plan is to have this my interior artist do all 3 covers, so there's a one-to-one match. So that's the plan there. So that's going to be my approach in the future. When it comes to mainstream comics, to me, I really don't care when it comes to collecting personally, and the value of collected comics. At least not new age comics or modern comics. And I kind of approach it the same way as indie comics. I understand why the mainstream does it to maximize profits. Try to get some big names on the covers to draw more purchases. But floppies aren't that expensive, so to pick up a couple different variants, it's not really going to break the bank for most people, and they're not being forced to pick up every variant, right? So I don't really see it as an issue personally. Um, I do think it's cool to see, a Frank Miller cover here and there, and some of the older talents, get a chance to have some covers since we're not getting a lot of actual books, unfortunately, by those folks. So at least you get, some art from them. So that's kind of my topic there for variants. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I know a lot of people get really worked up about it. They have complaints about inflating crowdfunded numbers and all that, but to me, it's no different than having different color variations, like I'm going to do, or having a hardcover, a soft cover, having just different types of books, and having posters, puzzles. Obviously, you're trying to raise as much money possible because you want to recover your costs. You want to be able to survive in this environment and continue on. Andrew says I only get a variant if it's a more badass cover than the A cover. Yeah, that happens from time to time. I mean, look at Patrick's campaign. There's a lot of great covers, and I am inclined to want to pick up more than one because, like me specifically, I love a black and white. Um, and I would love to see his River of Blood in a grayscale version in a uh, black and white too. I mean, I'd have to look more closely here to see if he did that. But there's some books where I really, really want to see it in black and white. Hence why I'm doing a black and white comic, primarily. So. All right. So let me get my camera set up here. I'm going to try to do a review of Lobo #0. Still new to this whole switching the camera and all that. Let's see if there's maybe something we can maybe watch while I do that. Maybe there's a clip or something we can watch. Let's see. Well, actually, I'll play this clip from Katie here from my Bat Chat #1, where we talked about again the kind of how we think CG can start to thrive a little bit more, the indie space in general. So let me get this pulled up. And if you did miss Bat Chat 1 and 2, feel free to go check those out as well. So let me get this shared. And then I'll get myself situated to do a comic review. So I do think we need some more of those as well, looking at some of the older comics and what we love about them. All right, audio should work. And let's go with this. Like when we entered the scene, right? We're talking 4 or 5 years ago. You had all the Kings had campaigns, and you had folks like Joe Sontag, right? His book looked fantastic. His new book looks fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not getting the eyes that it needs, or it should be getting. You had Joe Ball's book. I mean, there was just so many unique, just eye-popping campaigns, and they still exist. It's just how do we get those out in front of folks?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get the attention of the folks with larger followings to highlight those? And I think that's what's going to help CG more than anything, is like showing like, hey, there's still quality. Hey, let's everybody convince our chats that this is worth backing. There was always that momentum. There was always that, that confidence, right? To rally folks up and be like, hey, let's make this creator's book happen. And it's just, how do we get back to that point? Right. And I think I've been trying to do my part on Twitter. I know I've been absent on here. I'm trying to get that revitalized, but you've been super consistent, Patrick. You as well, Aaron. I know Gaffo, you've been streaming as well. Like, that's what we need more of. And I know Salty's been doing a great job, among others, Katie and everybody. So it's just, how do we make sure that every channel is saying, hey, also check out these other channels. Let's drive each other's audiences to one another and to each other's campaigns. Like tonight, I'm going to tell everyone, go to Salty's stream after this, right? Like, it's just getting that steam built back up. And again, Aaron, your books have been looking fantastic. Patrick, you've leveled up, especially with River of Blood. I mean, that's still criminally underfunded in my opinion. I'm excited to see what happens with the Second Chance campaign, but like, that's a perfect example. I would say I wish we could just like get in front of all the, let's say, the Kings, and just be like, hey, look at this guy's track record. Look at how he's been through all these years. He hasn't been in any of the drama. He's here for the right reasons. Look at the art on this book. Like,
yeah, I'm literally here because it's a vanity project, and I'm a complete fucking megalomaniac. No.
Well, on both of those points, I would say, and I've experienced this most recently with another person, who's been on my show a couple times. Look, like, unless you somehow, like, it's very rare that you're making money on your first or second book. Like, stop. Like, I feel like a lot of people, yeah, right. That's I'm all about that shit. No, you beat me on that last night, JJ. So kudos to you.
It's a good stream though.
It was most of it. But I had to turn it off. I was so mad at the end. Gosh, you distracted me from my point, JJ. There's a lot of people who come in here and it's the same thing. They all think like, well, I'm going to come out with one book and then I'm going to be, I'm going to make it all the money I spent on this book, I'm going to make back. No, you're not. Like, get used to it. Like, there's a point at which you have to understand you're doing a small business and you have to spend a lot of money to get that business up and going. And to get people to go, oh yeah. And then through word of mouth go, hey, this guy, yeah, this guy, go check this guy out. And a lot of people, so if you're coming into independent comics and you think, I'm going to release my first comic, I'm going to make money. No, you're not. Like, just maybe you will, maybe.
Well, years ago would have been different. But today,
there's a lot of pre-gaming you got to do for that, right?
Right. And but I think it's I think it's important for people. I think it's good for people to think when you come in and you come out with your first, second, maybe third comic. I'm going on my fourth, fifth. Nice. I'm going on my fifth right now. I haven't made a cent. I don't. But see,
he almost said "goddamn dime" or something.
I did. I almost say that word. Yeah, I'm trying to stop myself.
You did. It was like right there.
You saw it. Yeah, I was like, I haven't made a single peso. I've lost a ton of money. Lost, though, is a bad way to look at it. Like, do you want to be a comic creator? Do you want to be a comic creator or do you want to be a businessman? If you want to be a businessman, comics isn't the place for you. Go check out the past fucking 80 years of comic book history and tell me that like the mainstream also didn't have to deal with this. Like, you have to get to a point where people trust you and they like your IP so much that they're willing to buy toys. What was the old thing? Towels, beach towels. That was the old thing everybody always joked about. Like, you've got to get to that point, but like, I'm saying not because it's impossible, but I'm saying this, and not to say that this isn't going to be you, BA, Aaron, Dan, certainly not me. I know that already, as a matter of fact, but there's a point at which, like, you have to understand you aren't going to come in here and make all the money in the world, and maybe you won't even break even. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, like, these people coming in, you guys have to understand that, like, this is not easy. It looks easy because, it's a comic book. How hard could it be? It's hard. Like, it's very, very hard. You're essentially making a movie with still images. Like, that's what you're doing. And, the bigger your team is, the more people you have to pay, all this kind of stuff. Like, I just think people come in here with these ridiculous expectations of what is going to happen. And then they get upset that their ridiculous expectations weren't met.
Well, they don't know how to like budget for shipping.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one has always blown my mind. It's like, bro, before you do anything, you should know like what it's going to cost to produce something and get it to people. That's basic business.
That's what makes messed up Razorfist, right? Like, he didn't plan for shipping properly or something.
I don't know what happened there, but I give George hell every time he whines about not being paid. I'm like, bro, you could just make like Ghost of the Badlands too, couldn't you? One of my favorite pastimes is making George Alexopoulos mad because he's always complaining about not getting paid. It's like,
he's complaining about everything all the time.
Yeah. You had all this money or you had all this fame that you could have done something with, and it's like,
and he's so talented too.
I know you could have done something with it, but you didn't. So I don't care. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's try to do this. So, as I mentioned in my last stream, I want to try to do a comic review every stream. I think, again, talking about looking at comics that we love, that have inspired us, is needed in this space. Taking a look at scripts, even maybe doing some scripting and, live drawing is really good. I hope eventually to do some, once my artist has some free time, start doing some draw streams so that, folks can pick our brains. We can talk about the book and watch him, draw some of the panels. I would personally, I would enjoy that. So yeah, it's something I hope to do. So let's continue that tradition here. So Lobo number 0. So this is by Grant, Semex, and Dell. So first off, Lobo alone is just a fun, really cool character. You expect this to be a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit crazy, and funny as well. And it did not disappoint. The one thing I mean, I love this cover. This is fantastic, obviously. But the one thing I love about this book is the colors and the line art. I mean, it's just fantastic. But Simex and the colorist was Gloria Vasquez. There's just such great contrasting colors. I really, really like comics where you have like a really intense orange with a black backdrop or something of that nature. Or like this one, you can't really see it really clearly, but it's got a lot of dark, black inks with a black or a dark, purple in the background, and then some contrasting, lighter browns. But it just to me, it just makes everything really pop. I also love that the background, you know, to the panels and the outlines are in black. I think that to me just makes things really pop versus the bright white. And one thing I don't like about some comics, and I know it depends on the story and the character, but a lot of the Doctor Fate comics early on, for example, as much as I love the character, the art, and the story, there's just too many bright colors, and they all tend to like blend together. It's just like, oh, you got this bright purple mixed in with bright orange and bright pink, and it's just like overwhelming to me. And I just really enjoy that. There's just some really eye-popping, contrasting colors. Like here, again, it's not super clear, but if you have the comic, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like this really just intense blue with an intense like orangish yellow and then a dark black, and just everything contrasts really, really well. And the character designs and the character art is just fantastic in this book. It just reminds me of like Duke Nukem, for example. Just some really cool, aliens that look kind of similar to Klingons. And again, the blood, for example, just really pops out. I love books where the coloring just really sticks out. And that's why if I do a color variant of my comic, like it's going to have a very, very eye-popping, unique coloring. It's not going to be the Top Cow or 90s image style, but I do really, really love the coloring in this book. I can't stress that enough. But again, as expected, really fun, funny book. The first half of the book, the writers basically they got this crew here that has encountered Lobo, and they're basically they're running away from Lobo, and they're telling tall tales, like all these stories and myths around Lobo and how crazy he is, and how he basically killed everyone on his planet and killed 5 million people, right? Some really just hyperbolic, ridiculous stories. And as the stories are being told, all the characters are getting more freaked out because they're afraid of when Lobo shows up. And you have kind of like this general that's trying to keep them all together and telling them, oh, we're just going to confront him. Like, oh, no, we're going to take him on. But also admitting there's no point in running. He is going to find us. He's the best bounty hunter, in the world. And yeah, just cool shots like this where he's just pouring, whiskey or whatnot into his crew members, wounds, because he's telling them, hey, we're not going to send you to a doctor or a hospital because we got to confront this guy. And again, I love this design here, very similar to a Klingon. So it like gives me a mixture of like Star Trek and Duke Nukem vibes. And then just some, just goofy, shots of Lobo as a baby. Again, this is them retelling a tall tale of when Lobo was born, but just a fun comic and just really detailed line art. Again, just this is one of the most impressive books that I've read, and yeah, it's like we need some more books with this level of art and styling in indie comics. I also like that it's as much as I like out of the ordinary and kind of flashy panel designs and layouts. I like that this just has simple panel layouts. It doesn't have a bunch of like thin vertical panels, which are something I'm not a big fan of. You don't have panels of all different shapes, in like a double page spread where some are overlapping, some are kind of warped and at weird angles, just very simple, easy to follow, made it a lot more fun to read. So you don't get kind of confused while you're reading, because again, that's the worst thing that can happen when you're reading a book is you get a little bit lost or confused because of the panel layouts or not sure like which POV they may have jumped to, things of that nature. But I love the one story that they tell in here uh, where Lobo forced a surgeon to perform surgery on him so that he could implant, basically like a radio, um, I don't know, receiver or whatever, so that he could have cosmic rock zombie playing at all times in his head. It's just a fun, cool concept. We need more unique stuff like that in comics again. It's so much potential again for this character on the big screen. It's a shame. It's probably not going to go anywhere in the Gunverse or whatever. Yeah, just a lot of funny, goofy dialogue as well. And I love how the one character, the general of the crew, where is it? His hammer is called MC. It's just such a fun kind of play on words there and relative to that time period. Where is that? And then in the end, Lobo, of course, after they tell the tall tales, they go back to tell about the encounter where basically Lobo was just at a diner and they tried to rob it. And Lobo stepped in, more so out of annoyance that he had interrupted his meal and had confronted them. And the general had knocked Lobo down with his MC hammer. And that's the reason why Lobo comes after them and he gets his revenge by knocking that guy out with that hammer. Yeah, like right there. That's just fun. Again, such a cool characters design, great shadowing on this art, just great details in the lines and great contrasting colors. I love how they had just a quick Superman insert in here as well. This is just such a 90s feel to it. Just reminds you of all the cool video games that they had back then on Sega and eventually the Sega Saturn and then PC, like I said, with like Duke Nukem. Just fantastic book. But yeah, this, similar to Deathstroke, Doctor Fate, among others, just to me, a must read when it comes to coming up with, cool designs for characters, reading some unique different storylines and ways of doing writing. Obviously, if you're trying to insert humor into your books, which is not a big pillar to my writing, Lobo is the best when it comes to stuff like that. But highly recommend Lobo #0 to folks. Let me get switched back here to my other camera, so bear with me. All right. So Patrick says, yeah, those thin vertical panels are annoying. And I'll do a review of parts of it, but Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, fantastic book. I really, really enjoy the writing. The art is beautiful, but there are so many thin vertical panels, and to me, they're distracting. Where it's like, just do a normal square or rectangular panel so I can see a little bit more of the facial expression or what's happening. And so many of them were like kind of redundant. It's like instead of just combining three of them and having like a grateful image, it's like broken up, and it's just like that was like my one complaint with that book was the thin vertical panel. So I'm not a fan of those. Every once in a while makes sense, but not my cup of tea. So, unless anyone in the chat has any questions or would like to cover any other topics, I didn't have anything else for tonight. I know Salty is streaming tonight on his channel, I think at 11. Not sure if he starts at 11 or at 10:30, but highly recommend folks go over, subscribe, and join that chat. I am tempted to join that stream, only because they're talking about Odyssey versus Spider-Man, and I think I'll probably be the only one that's a huge Odyssey fan. But that's kind of normal when it comes to me, Salty, Patrick. You know, I'm the big Snyder fan. They are not. They have fun poking the jokes, and I have fun just digging my heels into the ground because I am passionate about those films. But yeah, I will highly recommend folks also go check out Odyssey. Even if you're not a fan of some of the castings, the music and the visuals alone make it a fantastic experience. I've been listening to the soundtrack on repeat, and it's just absolutely beautiful, just like Oppenheimer. I mean, Oppenheimer, it's a little bit slower, it's more dialogue heavy, but just the intensity of the music kept you so engaged. And God, I've replayed the music from that soundtrack so much. It's just fantastic. Just gonna confirm here when Salty starts his live stream. So 10:30, perfect. So 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Everybody jump over to Salty's channel. And reminder, make sure you check out and back, Salty's Silence Do Good on Fun My Comic, as well as uh, Patrick's Phenomenon 3 and River of Blood Second Chance. And then go sign up for Godfo Universe's Man of Blood over on Kickstarter. All the links are throughout the chat. If you want to pick up some novels, please check out my books on Amazon. I'll put a link in the chat. Also, if anyone is interested, feel free to support me on Ko-fi. Again, I'm not going to push anyone to do so. If things are tight, by all means, please do not. But if you want to contribute to the channel, help with the StreamYard's costs and also help fund some more comic pages to be done prior to launching the comic, because I probably won't launch it until maybe February, March of next year. I want to have a good 6 months to have the sign up page going to gauge interest and kind of see what the crowdfunding scene might look like, and the likelihood of raising a decent amount of money. But regardless, comics going to happen. I'm going to get it in front of folks. So, but if you want to help along the way, feel free to do so. Drop that in the chat here. So as always, appreciate everyone being here. If you didn't see Bat Chat number 1 or 2, please go check that out. I also had a clip uploaded for when I showed everyone my script and got to go through one of the new art pages. So you get to see some of that new art for this upcoming comic. And yeah, everyone have a good night, good rest of your good weekend, and God bless. Take care, everybody.